Let's wind the clock back to the late 1950s. Decades of bloom for civil aviation. The skies were buzzing with Cessnas, Pipers, and Beechcraft. As competition heated up, these companies were all trying to outdo each other. They wanted their planes to go faster, fly farther, and carry more people and cargo. But there was a catch. To make bigger planes, you needed more power to keep them in the sky. Cessna was the first to solve this puzzle. In 1954, they rolled out the Cessna 310, their very first twin-engine plane for general aviation. The 310 was a game changer. It was sleek, it was fast, and it was comfortable. It offered more space and more power, setting a new standard for personal and business air travel. Not to be outdone, Piper threw their hat in the ring with the Apache. It was built a bit differently. It was tough, it was reliable, and it got the job done. It might not have had the same luxury feel as the 310, but it was a workhorse that pilots could depend on. But while all this was going on, there was still one player watching from the sidelines: Beechcraft. In this video, we dive deep into the turbulent history of a plane that, out of this powerful trio, is the only one that's still in production. Welcome to the Big Metal Birds, and in this video, we review the Beechcraft Baron. Well, many of you might say, but there was twin bonanza since 1948, and yes, it's true, but both 310 and Apache outperformed it both in specs and initial sales, too. Often, pilots of that time chose Cessna and Piper for their technological and design innovations, while twin bonanza was perceived as some sort of step back in time, resembling its bigger military brother, Model 18. It had a slow cruise and poor fuel economy compared to newcomers. Realizing they might lose the rapidly growing twin market, Beech decided to act quickly, and in 1958, the production of the new plane began. Beechcraft Travel Air was something in between the initial Bonanza and the Twin. This time, Beech took the fuselage of the Bonanza 35, replaced its T-tail vertical stabilizer with a much larger T-34, and added two 4-cylinder Lycomings. An interesting fact is that this plane was initially named Badger. But in 1956, a letter from the United States Air Force notified Beechcraft that the name had been previously chosen as a reporting name for the Soviet Tupolev Tu-16 bomber. Therefore, they renamed it to Travel Air, which came from the predecessor company to Beechcraft, the Travel Air Manufacturing Company. Well, despite the somewhat of an upgrade, Cessna and Piper were still much more favorable options, offering 6-cylinder engines, roomier cabins, and sleek, sporty fuselage. It was clear Beech needs a proper, big, powerful twin-engine aircraft, and they delivered. In February 1960, the first Beechcraft Baron took to the skies. But what did they do this time? Well, Beech was really great at marketing because apparently this first Baron shared the same Bonanza fuselage, but now had a swept tail from Debonair, aerodynamic engine nacelles, and of course powerful 6-cylinder Continental IO 470, producing 260 horsepower each. Sounds great, right? Well, where Beech wasn't so great, ergonomics. You might remember their gear and flap button nightmare from our video about V-tail Bonanza. And while they seemed to learn the lesson not to put identically looking buttons one after another, Baron made things even worse. Let me explain. Well, new plane, new cabin, new layout for buttons and switches, and Beechcraft, now aware of the flaps and gear issues of the Bonanza, set both levers apart. Gear on the right, flaps on the left. Anecdotally, Cessna, Piper, and all other manufacturers did the opposite, with gear on the left and flaps on the right side. The result? A new Baron pilot reaches for the flap switch on the rollout and retracts the gear instead. Not so fun fact is that Beech, now stepping on the same rake twice, just ignored the issue and didn't redesign it at all for the 55th Baron. Despite this fact, 55th sales were going well, and soon, Beech was quick with updates. Let's quickly check the variants they came up with. After the initial model in 1961, just a year after, Beech launched A55, with a bit longer fuselage, cabin update, and new paint scheme. B55, introduced in 1964 and ending in 1982, holds a record in production length among the 55. It was a true six-seater with minor upgrades outside and major inside. The cabin became even more comfortable with offerings of different upholstery materials. Gross weight increased by 120 pounds. C55, introduced in 1967, got new 285 horsepower Continentals to increase the performance and longer fuselage, especially the nose. It now had a bigger baggage compartment in it to improve the weight balance. D55, introduced a year later, got another important upgrade. Flaps became longer, extending the wing surface and decreasing the takeoff and landing speed. E55, the last upgrade, brought another redesign for exterior paint and interior upholstery and larger fuel tanks. But Beechcraft didn't stop just with the 55. And while Baron 56 is an amazing machine, for this video, I would love to stop by and appreciate the true legend. Baron 58, by many factors, one of the best twin-engine planes ever built. Why? Let's take a closer look. 58 is basically a stretched-out version of the 55, but it's not all. The whole fuselage was repositioned forward for better weight distribution because now it also got a much larger IO 520, producing 285 horsepower each. Longer fuselage now has 4 windows on each side, and finally, a proper door for the rear passengers, now flying in a comfortable club seating. In 1976, the turbocharged Baron 58TC and pressurized Baron 58P were introduced. These variants were powered by turbocharged TIO 520 of 320 horsepower, had an increased 6,100-pound gross weight, and were certified under FAR 23 with a new type certificate. Since there are a lot more conventional 58th compared to turbo and pressurized, let's check its specs. As I already said, the notable performance of the Baron lies in its powerful engine, Continental IO 520, 6-cylinder air-cooled opposed engine pushing out 285 horsepower. A pair of these engines allow the Baron to cruise at 197 knots, which, by the way, is Cessna 310 never exceed. For the 58th, the maximum cruise is around 210 knots. Also, Baron easily holds 1,500 feet per minute climb, fully loaded. This plane really shines when it comes to long-range flights. Its massive 166-gallon tank easily gives you around 1,500 miles, or 2,450 kilometers, cruising at 165 knots at 10,000 feet, its best economy cruise. Part of the Baron's legendary status is definitely its safety. Just take a look at the statistics in this report. Almost 2.5 times fewer accidents when compared to similar class airplanes. Pilots often admire how stable it is to fly the Baron, both 55 and 58. As we wrap up this video, it's truly amazing to witness more than 60 years of engineering and upgrades of the legendary Baron, from the first offspring of the Bonanza to the luxury cross-country machine with advanced modern avionics. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive, and if you did, please leave this video a like and subscribe to our channel. Fly safe, and until next time.